Yes, sir.
Oh, what's up, man? How you doing?
Pretty good. How are you doing?
Good. What's up? What's on your mind?
Yeah, I apologize. I could have just jumped into it. Just wanted you to know I'm not some
That's cool.
stranger.
Yeah, I hope you're doing well.
You as well. So, funny enough, when we last spoke, you probably didn't even know my stance on any of this, but I was probably closest to what you could call a deist at that time. I grew up in Catholicism, but fell away, spent about 12 years away from the church. I've since come back. At this point, I am convinced of the truth of the Catholic faith. So I just thought I would call in and try to I know this is about debate, and I don't mind having a bit of a debate, but my goal here is more having mutual understanding, and hopefully hopefully we could glean something from each other. But I'm just saying that's my goal. Where I would start it at is: do we agree on the four marks of the church as stated in the Nicene Creed?
Absolutely. Well, I think we would agree, at least basically, one Holy Catholic Apostolic. But what I would actually argue, that's an argument against the Roman Catholic position, because there's nothing in the Creed or in sort of the patristic era theological summaries, whether it's John Damascus's on the Orthodox faith, or whether it's Catechetical Lectures of St. Cyril of Jerusalem. Like, none of those texts really make Rome the focal point of the one Holy Catholic Apostolic Church. And in fact, the council, which is Constantinople I in 381, when they composed that additional section to the Creed, the section about the church, that section is composed by a council had out of communion with Rome, presided over by St. Melitios, who died out of communion with Rome. And so if Constantinople I accurately lists the phrase one Holy Catholic Apostolic Church, and they were not in communion with Rome when they wrote that, they did not mean the papacy. And so I would argue that that's actually in favor of my position.
Okay, when you say Rome, you're not, just to clarify, you're not speaking geographically.
I'm speaking of the See of Rome.
Right, so
the See of Rome is geographic.
Sure. Well, I guess you could say the charter is the world, though.
The charter? I don't know what you mean.
The scope of influence of the Roman.
Well, influence is one thing, but like if you read the Chieti document of Rome from a few years ago, it admits that the Bishop of Rome did not have jurisdiction over the churches of the East in the first millennium.
Okay, no, actually that makes sense to me. In terms of as far as I understand it, there were multiple sees.
But Vatican I claims that from the earliest days of the church, the Roman See had universal jurisdiction over the entire Christian imperium, the Christian body. And I'm saying that the Chieti document that Rome has up on the Vatican website admits that this is not true. That the Roman Church.
When was that published?
2016.
Okay, well, I probably have issues with that, but
so no, wait a minute. So do you know better than Francis?
I can't say in what particulars.
Well, Benedict the 16th. Okay, Benedict the 16th in his book Introduction to Christianity says basically the same thing, that in the first millennium, the Roman See did not exercise universal jurisdiction over the East.
Okay, well,
so is Vatican I right, or are they right?
I think I'd be really interested to go over the exact lines where you're saying that those two are in contradiction.
Well, I mean, Vatican I says very clearly it's not even contested that the Bishop of Rome has universal jurisdiction and headship unilaterally over all of the church without any need for a synod or any other bishop to approve what he says and does. That's the whole basis for ex cathedra. I mean, that's Vatican I.
Right. Well, as I'm understanding that, this all emanates from the primacy of Peter, the Petrine office.
Well, I mean, what you mean by the first among equals or something like that, an Orthodox person could agree to that, to the word, quote, primacy. Because in the councils, Rome is listed first. Rome usually signed the council first. But the Bishop of Rome didn't call any ecumenical councils. There were popes who were excommunicated by ecumenical councils. There were popes who submitted to ecumenical councils like Vigilius. So I'm just pointing out that Vatican I is an innovation over the synodality, collegiality practice of the church in the first millennium.
Okay, but I guess I'm not going to say that you're wrong there, but I without having it directly in front of me, I'm not sure exactly where you're saying those two.
That's fine. So if you go to papalencyclicals.net, you can type in Vatican I and you'll get the full documentation of all of that. If you print it out, it's about 15 pages. That's all of Vatican I. And then I would say if you look at the Chieti document, Chieti from 2016, that document is about the admissions of the Roman See to the Eastern churches. So that's why that's very relevant to this discussion. And paragraph 19 is the last of the Chieti document, and that's where it says that the Bishop of Rome did not exercise canonical authority over the churches of the East. So that's an admission that the East and the Orthodox have been complaining about for so long, for 1,000 years. And I'm arguing that this admission contradicts the claims of Vatican I. So you can feel free to go fact check me. Please do.
No, I think that I think we may have a common understanding here in terms of the concept of sui juris, self-governing, that there was a self-governing, or I shouldn't say what was, that in some sense there's a self-governing aspect of Eastern Catholic churches.
No, but that's not about. This is not about whether there were autocephalous churches, which Council of Ephesus grants autocephaly to the Church of Cyprus. So there are autocephalous churches, which everyone admits, but that's a different issue from whether or not Vatican I dogmatically teaches that the Pope has unilateral, universal jurisdiction. I mean, it's not even in question. It's what everybody knows Vatican I teaches that knows what Vatican I says.
So I grasp what you've said, and I'll definitely do more research on what you've referenced there. What I wanted to more nail down in terms of what I was saying is the four marks of the church stated in the Nicene Creed. Mm-hmm. So for me, when I reverted, I had a fork in the road, which was Catholicism or Orthodoxy. And where I had, it was concerning the Nicene Creed that I fell on the side of Catholicism. And
did you hear that I said about Constantinople I that when they wrote One Holy Catholic Apostolic, they were out of communion with Rome? Were you aware of that?
No, but
yeah. So if you look up the schism, the Meletian schism, and the schism of Constantinople I, Rome did not accept Constantinople I until centuries later. So retroactively, Rome says, okay, we do accept the addition to the Creed and Constantinople I's teachings, but that's centuries later. So when they wrote that, and the Cappadocians were the primary theologians at Constantinople I, they clearly did not have the Vatican I mindset in mind when they wrote One Holy Catholic Apostolic.
Okay. But so, what I'm more getting at, that may be all just fine and true. And I'm not necessarily trying to dispute that at the moment. What I'm trying to get at is one holy Catholic and apostolic.
And that's fine. We can move on, but you're saying that the mindset of the people that wrote it doesn't really matter. It's what Rome says it means. Is that where we're going?
Not so much. I'm just trying to nail down what my reasoning is and why you might think my reasoning is false.
So, I mean, so you're going to say what, that like the Catholicity involves numbers, Rome has a lot of numbers, and Orthodox don't? Is that where you're going?
Sort of. I mean, you're not far off.
So was Catholicity true in the 4th century when most of the church was Arian or semi-Arian? Where were the numbers?
Was Catholicity true?
If it's numbers.
Yeah, it was. Well, what do you mean by numbers?
If the argument is going to be that the Roman Catholic Church is the one Holy Catholic Apostolic Church because it's the one that has the numbers, then that's false, because they didn't have nobody, whether you're Orthodox or Catholic, in the 4th century, the majority of the church was Arian or semi-Arian, and at one point there was only a handful of bishops that were Orthodox, St. Athanasius being one of them. So it cannot be a numbers game. Catholicity in the Orthodox view means fullness of truth, not primarily, essentially, numbers.
That's not. I don't understand it in terms of numbers. How I understand, like, if you wouldn't mind, I'll just break it down real quick.
Sure.
Catholic means universal. Catholicos means applying to the whole.
Yeah, so, fullness. Agreed. We agree.
So, and then holy would be from God.
Well, and produces saints.
And yes, so, but essentially, sanctified. It would be another way to put that.
Yeah.
Apostolic would be emanating from the apostles, which
apostolic succession. Saying, we agree with that. Yeah.
Ultimately, saying a mission from Christ, given by Christ.
Well, it means apostolic succession.
Right, but I'm saying the apostles are the apostles because they were given a mission by Christ.
Well, that's part of apostolic succession, is that the apostles are the successors to Christ.
Right, and then one meaning unified. And so my issue comes in when, well, I'd say I have two issues, but the latter is maybe more easily resolvable. So I think one and Catholic are at issue, and but Catholic maybe not. Like I said, maybe that's easily resolvable. But I think that.
Well, let me give you an example of where I would say that the Roman Catholic Church is not one. The Roman Catholic Church allows all of the Eastern Catholics to recite a different creed than the Western Church. How can the true Church have two different creeds? And in the first 1,000 years, the Church didn't have two different creeds; they had one creed.
Oh, I think that's a big issue. But to say that,
well, then what does one mean? Just the Pope? It doesn't mean actual faith. They're not one in faith. It's just the Pope.
One faith, one baptism.
Okay, but how is it one faith if the Church has two creeds?
I mean, that's an issue, but I think that when you say the Roman Catholic Church says, that's where I'm not connecting with what you're saying. It's not. I'm not trying to say that where you got that is wrong. But it seems that
what did I say Rome says that you're unclear about? And I'll cite you whatever documents you want.
Wait, I'm sorry.
You're saying to me, Jay, when you say Rome says, I don't know if that's accurate or where you got that, and I'm asking you, which thing are you unclear about? I'll give you the source.
Oh, sure.
I mean, we got Denzinger right here.
Well, it's just I noticed that you and many people say the Roman Catholic Church believes or says X, and I think that often you can have a source from those who claim to be of the Roman Catholic hierarchy,
like the Vatican. I mean, I'm going to Denzinger. Do you know what Denzinger is?
Well, are you talking? I think that papal infallible statements are at the peak of what.
I mean, I'm not. Do you know what Denzinger is? Are you familiar with Denzinger?
I'm familiar with the name, but no, I mean, probably
So
not.
this is the
very
collection of dogmas that Rome has affirmed. So this is one place to
Okay.
start for Roman Catholic dogma, and hence it's called the sources of Catholic dogma. I'm not being arrogant. I'm not being mean to you. I'm just literally saying that's what Denzinger is. It's the sources of Catholic dogma. And so when I say something like Vatican I says this, you can find it at papalencyclicals.net under Vatican I or in Denzinger, because Denzinger pretty much has all of Vatican I. It's not the
Yeah.
only source of Roman Catholic dogma, because Denzinger doesn't have everything that's taught by the
Right.
papacy. It just has a collection of papally approved things. But if you go to the Vatican website, they cite Denzinger. So it's definitely an authoritative source.
Okay. But where do you source the claim that you made, though?
Which
The
one?
Roman
Which one?
Catholic Church. I'm kind of blanking because I guess I was so focused on what you were just saying. But you were suggesting. I know you mentioned about the Eastern churches having a different creed.
That's not even a controversial. I mean, you can go ask any Uniate or Greek Catholic. Like they recite the creed without the filioque. This is well known.
Right. Yeah.
So
No,
do you need
I know.
a papal statement whether that's true?
No.
Right.
No. What I'm saying. Well, no. I guess I think I got lost in the mix there. You had made a statement that the Roman Catholic Church says, and I'm just questioning: is that an infallible teaching, or is that something that you read from the Vatican that may or may not be?
Well, Vatican I is infallible. It's a dogmatic ecumenical council. So in the Roman Catholic
Sure.
system, yes, Vatican I is infallible. And presumably, I mean, maybe some Roman Catholic has some argument they would make. I would say Denzinger also includes everything that is, quote, infallible or ordinary universal magisterial teaching, which according to Vatican I is protected by the Petrine Charism. So Denzinger also should be without error.
Okay. And that may be the case. I can't speak to that. My issue comes down to when I think about the question of Orthodox versus Catholicism, I think that Orthodox is lacking the unity. And I guess to me, there is.
Now, and my first question to you was, well, then why does, if the Roman Catholic Church has the unity, supposedly, is that a unity of faith and belief, or just a unity of we all believe in Francis, and then underneath Francis, it's all fair game to do whatever you want? Because that's what I see, and that's what I experience in the Roman Catholic world. I see no unity between the Novus Ordo hippie mass and Nostra Aetate and the SSPX Latin mass down the road. There's no unity between those things. The only unity that exists is a common confession of Pope Francis or the papacy. So my point is precisely that unity, or the oneness of one Holy Catholic Apostolic, refers then to we're all one under the Pope, but not a unity of actual theological faith confession. Hence my argument that the Roman Catholic Church has two different competing creeds within it.
I think that you and I have different concepts of unity going. So I would say,
what is the oneness of the Roman Catholic Church then?
One faith, one.
How is it
baptism.
one faith when there's two different creeds with two different faiths?
Both recite the Apostles' Creed.
No. The Nicene Creed, where the Uniates recite the Filioque, they don't recite the Filioque, and the rest of the Roman Catholic Church does. Do you not know what I'm talking about?
I feel like I missed something in what you said.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be mean, but so this is a really basic. So all of the Eastern Roman Catholics, the Eastern Uniate Catholic Church, Melkites, whatever, Russian Catholics, Greek Catholics, they recite a different creed, literally a different Nicene Creed than the rest of the Latin Church. They cite the creed that we Orthodox have, which is without the Filioque.
That's an issue, but I thought you were saying between the Novus Ordo and the SSP.
I made a different analogy to a lack of actual unity between those groups. Yes, I did. But that wasn't in reference to the creed. I'm saying that they don't believe the same theology. Almost all the SSPX and traditional Catholics do not agree with the theology of Vatican II. So how is there unified faith when a giant portion of the church doesn't accept or rejects or doesn't want to believe Vatican II?
I think that there's a distinction to be made between what is officially the faith that is prayed at Mass, and what is the faith that is demonstrated in, say, a typical Novus Ordo.
I'm talking about Vatican II documents and the dogmas and teachings of Vatican II. Regardless of what you believe when you walk into a Novus Ordo or an SSPX Mass, do you as a Roman Catholic have to believe Vatican II?
I don't know what that would even mean, believe Vatican II. It wasn't a dogmatic council.
It is a dogmatic council. No, that's totally false. No, it's not. What Paul VI said was it, quote, proclaimed no new dogmas. There's 4 separate statements from the popes that say it is dogmatic. So it's a total trad myth. It's a trad myth. That yes, it is. Do you want me to give you the 4 statements from the Vatican that you have to believe it?
Sure, but okay. They state that it's that I don't even. What I'm saying is I don't know what that would mean. It's an ecumenical council. Is what they state.
Yeah, and you have to believe an ecumenical council. You think that when the Pope confirms an ecumenical council for the entire church on faith and morals, you don't have to believe it? All Paul VI said was that it proclaimed no new dogmas. He never said it's not dogmatic. And in fact, Francis and every Roman Catholic after, why are you interrupting? Every Roman Catholic after the council, every Pope has enforced Vatican II and the new Mass on the entire church. So the idea that you don't have to believe it is ludicrous. Every Roman Catholic church that you go to tells you and teaches you in the Catechism that you must accept the documents of Vatican II.
What must I accept from the documents?
All of the teaching, all the documents of Vatican II are signed off by the papacy.
What specifically do I, as a lay person,
all of them, accept? The entirety of it. You don't get to reject any of it because it's ordinary, universal teaching.
What new doctrine was brought in Vatican II?
Well, Paul VI claims there was no new doctrines. I don't believe that. I believe that Vatican II, with Nostra Aetate, for example, taught that Hindus now worship the one true God, as do Muslims. Do you believe that Muslims and Hindus worship the same God as Roman Catholics?
I think that can be scrutinized a bit further than the way you just stated it.
Well, do they believe in the Trinity? I mean, because that's the only one true God that exists.
Right. Well, so I think this is... I do have an issue with that, and I've studied this problem, and I see the same issue that you see.
Because it's not true. That's because you have some discernment. You're correct. It's not true. Muslims and Catholics and Orthodox do not worship the same God because they use the word God. And in fact, Vatican Nostra Aetate goes as far as to say that Muslims and Catholics have the same faith as Abraham. And yet Jesus says in John 5 that Abraham rejoiced to see his day and saw it and was glad. Excuse me, John 8. John 5-8, Jesus constantly argues with the Pharisees that Abraham believed in him. Well, then Muslims are not of the Abrahamic faith.
Sure. So,
well, if that's sure, then Vatican II is false. If you say sure, then Vatican II is false because it says the opposite of that.
I grasp what you're saying, and I've wrestled with the same problem.
Right, well, this is an example of why Rome is a contradictory position.
If I could, I just want to explain how I read what is in Vatican II there. It's, I will say that this is what is called weaponized ambiguity, and I think that there is a huge problem. I know,
man. I've heard all this since 2005 when I was going to the Latin Mass in 2005, and I've heard about weaponized ambiguity. Do you think it's ambiguous when the Pope goes into the mosque and prays towards Mecca? Is that ambiguous, or is he acting out this theology?
Yeah, that's wackiness, and I'm with you on that. But
okay, well then Vatican I is false, and the Roman See has defected.
I don't think that's the case.
How are you keeping the true faith if you're praying in mosque towards Mecca?
I mean, I don't think you would. You certainly are committing at least heresy, if not apostasy.
Okay, so then Vatican I's not true, and Rome can err, and the papacy is not indefectible.
I don't think that that's necessarily true.
I mean, you just literally said that you think it's heretical. Francis and Benedict did it.
Mm-hmm.
So, are they heretics who defected or not?
I can answer that, but I wanted to address the bit about Vatican II that you were saying.
Okay, sure, go ahead.
I have no problem going through methodically on this, but I don't want to go all over the place and lose where we were.
Okay, can I read the paragraph? It says, the church regards with esteem the Muslims. Muslims adore the one God, living and subsisting in himself, merciful and all-powerful, creator of heaven and earth, who has spoken to men. Muslims take pains to submit wholeheartedly to his decrees, just like Abraham, with whom the faith of Islam takes pleasure in linking itself submitted to God. Though they do not acknowledge Jesus as God, they honor him as a prophet. And then it goes on to say, they value the moral life and the worship of God through prayer, almsgiving, and fasting. This gives the impression that we have the same common faith and that God accepts Islamic prayer, almsgiving, and fasting, and none of that's true.
So, yeah, I mean, that's there's a lot of problems in that statement, but I think that it's important to look at the specific wording. Like I don't have it in front of me, but I could get it in front of me. They said that they claim to have Abrahamic faith, or what was that bit?
No, it actually says that they adore the one God living and subsisting in himself. It doesn't say they claim to, it says they do it.
Well, so let me just explain how I read that, and it's not may or may not be what was intended in the words, and I certainly think that the way it's worded is highly problematic.
Okay, well, I thought that the papacy was here to give us clarity, certitude, and to guide us and preserve it. So now it's weaponized ambiguity?
Vatican II definitely did not do that.
Okay, well, then the papacy doesn't work, because...
I don't think that has to be true. But the way that I read that...
So we need you. I'm not trying to be rude, but you don't see how Protestant this is? We actually need you, an individual Catholic, to suss through all these stacks of papal documents to tell us the true papal meaning of the true papal councils?
No, I'm not suggesting that.
Well, but you are, because you're saying that the way to read it is blah, 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 blah.
No, I'm saying that each individual has to apply critical thinking when they analyze anything.
Does Vatican I say that you judge the first see and apply critical thinking to its teachings? Or does it say you submit with docility to whatever it teaches?
You're not supposed to violate your conscience. So
it's not an issue of conscience, because it also says that you submit with docility. That's the teaching of Vatican I, is that the laity do not judge the first see. You submit with docility to its rulings and teachings.
That's true.
Then you're not in a position to say that this is weaponized ambiguity.
I think we're getting too scattered. And
this is precisely the issue. It's not. It's precisely the issue.
Well, it's just I want to be able to address that one statement that you read from Vatican II. I'm perfectly fine to move on to the other points, but
go ahead.
The way I grasp what is said there in Vatican II, which admittedly it sucks the way it's worded.
These are dogmatic statements, and you're saying it sucks. So this is like saying that divine revelation sucks.
They're not dogmatic statements.
They are dogmatic statements. I'll give you 4 examples of the Pope saying that you have to accept all the documents of Vatican II.
There's nothing for me to accept there. That's
just that you're lying to yourself, because you are told in other places 4 times that you must accept all of Vatican II.
And that means nothing. They can keep repeating that, but
so you don't actually follow the papacy. Reality. So thank you for admitting my point that you interpret and follow the papacy when you want to.
No, that's
you literally just said you don't have to accept Vatican II's dogmatic, even though the Pope tells you have to.
No, again, we're jumping to another point. I just wanted to address
because you're saying that a dogmatic teaching is sucky, and I'm telling you that you don't get to say that in the Roman Catholic system, and it is dogmatic.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. If I give you 4 places where the Pope says you have to accept Vatican II, you're telling me that you don't have to listen to that.
Accept Vatican II
has
to mean something in practical reality.
It means you must believe. Why are you lying to yourself and lying to the audience? Because I can open up the Roman Catholic Catechism cites from Vatican II countless times. And you're telling me that
The
Rome doesn't
Catechism is
teach
not
that?
an infallible document.
It's absolutely authoritative and binding. It doesn't have to be infallible.
No, the Catechism is not.
Yes, it is binding. It is
No,
ordinary teaching. Do you know what ordinary teaching
No.
is? You didn't even know there was two different creeds in the church. Do you know what ordinary teaching is?
What do you mean two different creeds? The
Do you-
Nicene and Apostles' Creed? Is that what you're saying?
No, earlier, the two different creeds between the West and the East, the Uniates and the
I'm
Latin
aware of
Church.
that. I'm aware of that. The Filioque
Okay, so
equation.
what do you know what ordinary teaching is?
Yeah, the ordinary magisterium.
Right. Do you have to accept that, according to Vatican I?
If
No, there's no ifs.
yes,
Do you have to
yes,
accept it?
yes, you do.
Okay,
but
what's the
there's a
criteria for
qualifier
ordinary? Right.
As to what?
What's the criteria for it?
I mean, I can't spit it out at the moment.
It's any time that,
if you know what
that the
I'm
Pope is teaching authoritatively in concert with what the church has always taught for the entire church. You have to accept that,
Yeah.
and it's free from error. It is also, according to
Right.
Vatican I,
Which-
under the Petrine Charism. Vatican II's documents, listen, Vatican II's documents are affirmed by the Roman See for the entire church on faith and morals. You are told in every Catholic church in the world that you have to accept it. So you do not have the liberty of rejecting Vatican II. It's false.
All right, here's the issue. What you just said, it can't contradict itself.
Only if Roman Catholicism is true. I'm arguing that it does contradict. That's the whole point of why we're having this conversation.
No, but what I'm saying is that if there is a contradiction, which you're highlighting, and I'm with you on that, then that's the problem. It's the
Yeah, and it
problem
means the
is
Roman
not
system is
original-
false. It means the system is false. That's the point.
I don't think that's
I'm sorry
true,
that you
but
don't
again,
see that because it's a systemic level refutation.
I get where you're coming from, but I don't think that you've heard my case on that. And I'm just trying to.
Your
parse
case
out
was
two
the
topics
wording
here.
is sucky, which I've heard for 20 years.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to parse out these two issues. I'm perfectly fine to have the conversation that you're trying to have right now, but we have not addressed that statement from that, or I haven't been able
Okay,
to
go for
address
it.
that statement. So, the way I read that is replace Muslim with unbaptized individual. Can an unbaptized individual pray?
None of that has anything to do with the fact that it's trying to say they have the faith of Abraham. That's the problem in the statement. The faith of Abraham was faith in Christ.
Is a single Muslim representative of the entirety of Islam, the religion?
I don't see how that's relevant because Islam as a universal position rejects the Trinity and the deity of Christ. So it doesn't matter what one Muslim thinks or believes when the public profession of the religion is that they are Unitarians and they reject the Trinity. In fact, they believe in putting to death people who believe in the Trinity.
But this is what I'm trying to say. If an atheist is unbaptized and prays, is that somehow invalid? Can an atheist not pray?
Praying, and none of that has anything to do with the public profession of their faith. What the theology is, the public profession of the religion.
This is
It's
what I
not
think
saying
is the
it's not saying can God choose to listen to an individual when they pray. It's saying
think
that
you-
Muslims have the same God as us, and it's just categorically false. They don't.
I totally see where you're coming from, but I think there's a discontinuity in how you're reading it and how I'm reading it. I'm reading it from the perspective of they shouldn't.
And
have
all
put
of this
Muslim
begs the
there at
question.
all.
That's the whole point, man. Like I give up because I'm going to give you right here. It's actually 5 places that tell you that you have to believe in Vatican II. All of these are right here underneath I did a video called "Was Vatican II Infallible?" If you look up this video, I list 5 papal documents underneath that tell you that you have to believe Vatican II. So look, I appreciate you coming on, Ryan. It was good to chat with you. I wish you well. I just don't buy it, man. And if you want to reject Vatican II, go for it. But it's not a consistent Roman Catholic position to reject something that 5 papal documents tell you you have to accept. And here they are. The first one is right here. It's Francis talking about the dogmatic nature of the reforms of Vatican II. It's his audience that he gave in 2017. There's the first one. Second one is another speech. This one is John the 23rd's opening speech to the Vatican II, and he says it is an ecumenical council that is dogmatic and must be accepted. The third one is this one, which you have to hit translate into English. It's only in Italian. It is a discussion from Paul VI, I believe, in 1976, where Paul VI says that you have to believe it. It's dogmatic. It's just a trad myth. This is like they're inventing ways to try to make the system work when all you have to do is demonstrate one dogmatic contradiction and the whole system is false. And it's like Roman Catholics can't conceive of that being a systemic level defeater, because in their mind, you can just keep stacking up more explanations and more, quote, evidences. So Pius XI, Casti Connubii, paragraph 104, this says that you're bound by more than what is even extraordinary. You have to believe in whatever the Roman Catholic Church, the Roman See teaches, even if it's ordinary teaching and not ordinary magisterium. Even just the ordinary teaching is supposed to be submitted to with docility. And the last one is Si Diligus of Pius XII. Obedience is necessary even if you think the Pope is wrong. Do you see this? All you goofball Roman Catholics. Si Diligus. Pius X's canonization by Pius XII. Even if you think the Pope is wrong, you still must submit with docility. That is what Roman Catholic Vatican I obedience had in mind. So, there's the 5 things that prove you don't get to pick and choose and throw out Vatican II. And you notice he did 2 things there in that discussion. At first he says, no, I don't have to accept Vatican II. No, actually you do. Here's 5 examples of where you have to. Oh, well, it's the wording. No, which one is it? Do you not have to accept it, or is it just shitty wording? And by the way, the Roman See is supposed to be there to make it clear and not put us in this Protestant position of, we don't know what it means. It's ambiguous. It's shitty wording. So everybody should go watch this podcast from 2020 where we walk through all of these different documents.